Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm Liang Zhang. Here is a preview of some of today's stories. As the state began to recover from the string of winter storms, an early spring storm hit California hard. It caused more floods, traffic, and even deaths. Google recently pulled the Chinese-owned Pinduoduo app from its App Store. This comes amid growing cybersecurity concerns from federal and state officials. A California representative proposed a new congressional bill that would defund states that allow secret gender transitions. The move comes as lawmakers in Sacramento introduced a state-level bill addressing the same issue. On the second official day of spring, heavy rain and wind brought more destruction to California. The hurricane-like weather knocked down trees and power lines, cutting power to thousands of residents.
The latest burst in heavy wind-blown rain and snow churned out of the Pacific into California on Tuesday. It triggered scattered floods and mudslides, uprooted trees, and left thousands of storm-weary residents under evacuation orders. According to the National Weather Service, gusty gale force conditions posed a bigger hazard around Santa Cruz and the Bay Area. Sustained winds reached 60 to 70 miles per hour. Near the town of Boulder Creek in Northern California's Santa Cruz Mountains, residents were clearing roads with their own chainsaws and directing traffic through an entanglement of logs and power lines that were dragged to the ground.
I've owned my property for 20 years. This is the first time I've had slides anywhere. Yeah. I've never seen it, and it's a lot of rain.
Yeah.
High wind warnings and advisories were posted for a vast area stretching from the Mexico border through Los Angeles to the San Francisco Bay Area. Winter storm warnings were in effect for high mountains with several feet of snowfall forecasted.
I think in the 90s we had some that were like this, but I think the trees are just bigger now and not handling the weight. And, like this is the mountains. Like if you live in the mountains every 10 years or so, it's going to be hard. Sometimes really hard.
Wind knocked down a big rig on the Bay Bridge, blocking traffic. 3rd Street Bridge can be seen swaying. San Francisco firefighters say the storm is wreaking havoc on Waymo autonomous vehicles, causing them to just stop on the road. The newest onslaught arrived early on the second official day of spring. Much of the storm was concentrated in Southern California, the state's central coast, and its agricultural heartland. Drone footage showed roads and farmland underwater. Homes and vehicles could be seen inundated by floodwaters near the River Tule in Corcoran. A person died after a tree fell on a car in Contra Costa County. Over 100,000 people lost power. An extremely rare tornado warning was issued for parts of Southern California near Thousand Oaks. The storm marks the 12th so-called atmospheric river to hit the U.S. West Coast since December. The National Weather Service also issued flood watches across a region of more than 17 million people, including most of Greater Los Angeles and a large swath of western and central Arizona.
Reservoirs across California are filling up quickly due to the winter record amount of rainfall. Although not completely full, some of the major reservoirs are much higher than the historical average.
Data from the California Department of Water Resources, or DWR, shows a significant increase in water levels at reservoirs across the state compared to just 2 months ago. In Central California, the Don Pedro Reservoir is 118% above its historical average. Camachi Reservoir is at 129%, and Oroville Reservoir is at 123%. Water in some reservoirs is being routinely released to prevent flooding. At Lake Oroville, water is being released into the Feather River downstream at a large rate. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is working with local operators to manage releases and flood control. Nearly all Central Valley reservoirs are above 80% capacity, greatly alleviating the area of drought. San Luis Reservoir is more than double its water level. With more rain in the forecast, water levels could continue to rise and replenish the state's reservoirs.
Google recently pulled the Chinese-owned Pinduoduo app from its Google Play App Store. This comes as state and federal lawmakers have become increasingly concerned about the cybersecurity vulnerabilities that come with tech products produced by Chinese-owned companies.
After malware was found on a Chinese version of the Pinduoduo app, it was removed from the Google Play App Store. A Google Play spokesperson said in an emailed statement, off-play versions of this app that have been found to contain malware have been enforced on via Google Play Protect. Although Google Play hasn't found the malware on the App Store version, Google has decided to suspend the app nonetheless. The statement continued, saying users that have malicious versions of the app downloaded to their devices are warned and prompted to uninstall the app. We have suspended the Play version of the app for security concerns while we continue our investigation. Pinduoduo is an e-commerce website developed by a Chinese-based company. It is primarily used as a way for farmers to sell their agricultural products. Google's decision to suspend the Pinduoduo app on its Google Play App Store comes as the United States becomes increasingly cautious of cybersecurity vulnerabilities. Congress has banned the popular video-sharing social media app TikTok. Beyond phone apps, U.S. officials have also worked to block Chinese telecommunications companies like Huawei and China Telecom from operating in the United States. Officials commonly cite concerns that services can be used to monitor Americans.
A proposed federal legislation will defund states that allow the secret gender transitioning of school children without parental consent. Lawmakers are hoping to put parents back in charge of the decisions for their children.
On March 14th, Republican Representative Doug LaMalfa introduced H.R. 1585, a House of Representatives bill known as the Prohibiting Parental Secrecy Policies in Schools Act. The proposed legislation would require states receiving funds under Title II of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965 to implement a nationwide policy prohibiting secret social transitioning at school. Any state in violation of the law would be defunded. In a press conference right outside the Chico Unified School District, LaMalfa says H.R. 1585 intends to, quote, put parents back in charge of the education decisions for their children in personal family decision and value decisions. The bill comes shortly after a lawsuit was filed by the Center for American Liberty on behalf of Chico mother Aurora Regino against the school district's staff. Regino alleges that a school counselor affirmed her 10-year-old daughter's gender identity as a transgender male for about 3 months at Sierra View Elementary School without her knowledge. The lawsuit seeks to end the school district's policy of secret gender transitions. During the press conference, Regino says, quote, the school transitioned her and left her to figure it out by herself. This is wrong. Keeping important information a secret from parents is not the answer. Meanwhile, on March 13th, Republican Assemblymen Bill Asaley and James Gallagher also introduced AB 1314, which would require teachers, counselors, and other school staff to notify parents in writing within 3 days if they find a student is identifying as a gender other than what is stated on their birth certificate. LaMalfa introduced the bill by title only, meaning the text of H.R. 1585 has not yet been received by Congress.
Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon launched a program last week to shuttle employees. This move was made to combat a series of aggressive confrontations between the public and the employees. Employees of the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office can now take a shuttle service to and from their cars. This change was the direct result of a string of public safety incidents, according to an internal memo from the DA George Gascon's office. The District Attorney's Bureau of Investigation will operate the shuttles. It will be in effect until another form of transportation can be made available to employees. Minivans will take workers between Union Station and a parking lot in Chinatown every weekday. This move comes as the DA is facing heightened pressure from some prosecutors who say his progressive policies have led to an increase in crime. Over the last few years, the Civic Center has been a hotspot for crime. There were reportedly 90 assaults, 87 vehicle thefts, 26 robberies, and 35 car break-ins in the Civic Center area in the last 6 months. In 2019, the Los Angeles Police Department beefed up its patrol presence after city employees said they didn't feel safe in the area. UCLA has created one of its most advanced humanoid robots to date. The School of Engineering has produced a robot named Artemis, which is the world's fastest walking robot designed in an academic setting.
Mechanical engineers at the UCLA Samuli School of Engineering have created the world's fastest, full-sized humanoid robot with a first-of-its-kind technology. In a March 10th statement from the school, the robot named Artemis is believed to be the first created in an academic setting that is capable of running. UCLA scientists say that the robot can also jump and walk on unstable surfaces and even remain steady when shoved. The robot's main innovation is its human-like arms and legs. To prepare for the summer competition, student researchers say they will fully test its running and soccer playing skills. They will evaluate how well it can traverse uneven terrain and stairs, its capability for falling and getting back up, and its ability to carry objects.
We are going to take a short break, but when we come back, we'll have a special report. A college professor was allegedly harassed by her coworkers for questioning school's woke policies. NTD spoke to the teacher to hear more about her story. That and more on California Today. Welcome back to California Today. I'm your host, Ling Zhang. The director for the Anza College's Office of Equity, Social Justice, and Multicultural Education has been allegedly harassed for questioning the school's woke policies. Earlier this week, I spoke to Professor Tabia Lee to hear her story. Dr. Lee, welcome and thank you for joining me today. So I may be a little bit old school here, but when I was going to college some 30 years ago, I don't remember any office on campus called Office of Equity and Social Justice. I mean, the closest I can think of is the Department of Education or Psychology. Is this a new trend that every community college, at least in California, had to have an office like that?
It seems to be a unique trend, not just in California, but nationally. Where, you know, in many, especially public universities and colleges, and even private universities and colleges, there's now these positions of diversity, equity, inclusion officer, chief diversity officer. Like if I've done a Google search recently, which I have because I'm job seeking at the moment, I see these positions in so many places throughout education now.
So you have served as a director of this office for Anza College since 2021. Could you tell us a little bit more about the qualification and job description for a position that seems almost like to have more to do with ideology, politics, and racism than public education?
Yes, so this is a faculty director position, and it was attractive to me because I'm a lifelong teacher and educator, and one of the primary job duties was to promote inclusion throughout the campus. And when I read that, inclusion has been something that I've always been passionate about in my teaching, and I said, wow, this is an opportunity to work with the whole community of people, you know, to advance what seemed to me to be very noble aims.
So could you help us to fill the gap from 2021 to now? You were told that your contract wouldn't be renewed after June, and that you were even called a white supremacist on campus. So what exactly happened there?
This was actually, David, at the very beginning that this took place. So as I came on to De Anza in this role, I wanted to reach out to people and to have conversations with them. And one of those early conversations was with a staff member in my office who told me that my position belonged to them and they were a finalist for it. And a couple of weeks later, that same person was the person who told me that as I was talking to the team, I made a Google Doc and I said, you know, we can all set agenda there. We're all editors. Maybe we can put topics to talk about in our meetings and, you know, identify projects to work on. And that person that told me their job should belong to them told me, stop what you're doing right now. And I kind of just froze, you know, and they said, what you're doing is you're white speaking and you're white splaining. And he said, you're being transactional, you're supporting white supremacy. And the way that landed on me, I felt very bad because I had never heard those terms before. and everything I've known about white supremacy. So I need to say that where I grew up in Lodi, which is here in California. It's a small town. I was born in Stockton, grew up in Lodi. So I had actual experiences growing up in Lodi with neo-Nazis and people who were members of the KKK, actual white supremacists. And so when he called me that, it felt bad. And I said, please don't do that. But my whole team was there and they all looked at me disapproving. And as I just went on to go to workshops with those same individuals who were in that meeting and who looked at me very disapprovingly, and the person who said that I was white speaking and white splaining, I saw they kept putting up a slide over and over again. And it said white supremacy culture. And it had things like being on time, being objective, the written word, all of these other characteristics that you generally would associate with being successful or being in the academic world, or, that I had seen as that, but they were calling it white supremacy culture. And they used this slide over and over again. And one time it had a citation on it, and I went to find who was that and what they were saying. And that's when I discovered that they were working from a very different understanding of white supremacy, understanding of how people are racialized. I mean, as a Black woman, no one's ever in my life told me that I'm a white supremacist. So that was when this was within the first couple of weeks, David. It wasn't like months went by and disagreements, like this was instant. And then other things started happening that, again, this idea of anti-whiteness, frankly, they would call it decentering whiteness, would come up again and again in conversation. And I was always a little surprised. And, I was the odd person out because I wasn't thinking that way. But when it comes to serving our students and the community, we rally around some points that we have in common, even if we seem real different. But that wasn't a welcome way of doing the work once I got in to do it because of this dominant idea around, just being very racialized and wanting to promote divisions around that.
So what's your next step? Do you still want to work in the field of equity and social justice?
Yes, so I'm still committed to public education. So I am on the job search, looking for educational advocacy, type work, leadership work. I think it's important that we have leadership, especially around teacher development and professional development, so that we can have more humanistic and critical thinking involved. And all those things that are important that really contribute to society and democracy and America and all those things that we stand for, and that we should stand for as public schools. Hopefully there's institutions out there still where freedom of expression and speech and academic freedom are still highly, held values, and critical thinking. That's a place that I would really work well in, and those are the kinds of things that I'm looking forward to for the future, and just continuing to raise awareness so the public knows what's happening on the taxpayers' dollars. That's so important to me.
All right, Dr. Lee, thank you for joining us today. We reached out to De Anza College for a comment, and its public affairs office says, quote, "Thank you for writing to us. Foothill De Anza Community College District has an obligation to protect the privacy in personnel matters. Without commenting on any specific matter, we can share that faculty members have comprehensive due process and the appeal rights both under the law and negotiated through their bargaining unit." Now let's check in with NTD's Carlos Reyes for today's Sports Roundup.
Hi, I'm Carlos Reyes, taking you through the California Today Sports Roundup.
Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored a thundering 31 points against his former team, and Jalen Williams added 20 as the Oklahoma City Thunder continued to solidify their playoff standing on Tuesday with an 101-100 victory over the host Los Angeles Clippers. Josh Giddey scored 13 points and Isaiah Joe added 12 as the Thunder won for the 8th time in their past 10 games. Kawhi Leonard scored 21 points and Paul George added 18 against his former team before departing with a knee injury. George appeared to hyperextend his right knee after he was fouled by Luguentz Dort on a rebound attempt with 4 minutes and 38 seconds remaining. He did not return to the game. Leonard had a chance to give the Clippers the victory on the last possession after a rebound off a Williams miss. However, after dribbling near the three-point arc for 21 seconds, he was unable to get a shot off in time. Jason Tatum scored 36 points, Jaylen Brown added 27, and Boston beat host Sacramento to finish 4-2 on a cross-country trek. Derek White added 20 points for the Celtics, and Marcus Smart scored 17. White completed a double-double with a team-high 11 assists, while Tatum was Boston's leading rebounder with 8 boards. Domantas Sabonis tallied 16 points, 13 rebounds, and 12 assists for the Kings, who lost their second straight. Sabonis' triple-double was his 12th of the season. De'Aaron Fox led Sacramento with 18 points. Celtics 132, Kings 109. Nick Ritchie scored in the opening minute and Tyler Toffoli collected 3 assists in a face-off in Southern California where the Flames roasted the Ducks. Troy Stetcher, Rasmus Andersson, Elias Lindholm, and Andrew Mangiapane also scored for the Flames, who are 4 points out of a playoff spot with 10 games remaining. Toffoli has netted 9 points in a 4-game point streak. Frank Petrano scored for the Ducks, who have 1 victory in their last 5 games. Goalie John Gibson stopped 38 shots for the Ducks. Flames 5, Ducks 1.
And that is it for today's Sports Roundup. I'm Carlos Reyes. Thank you for watching.
That's all we got for you tonight. We'd like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8:30 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcast on our California Today webpage. You can find it at ntd.com/California-today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Send us a message on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. I'm Liang Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.